Hello, Virtual Doll Convention, and welcome back. We are here live in the Teddy Bear Den with John Quart.
You know how I said I had other collections? Well, I am an accumulator of fabrics, parts, anything you might need to repair a bear or a toy. You can never have enough. And I have not enough.
He has his stash, just like I have my stash of like doll repair stuff that I keep very safe. In this video, John is going to give us some tips and tricks, some of his best used things that he does to repair and restore teddy bears.
Yeah.
Yay!
Things that maybe you can do at home if you want to practice, or if you want to know what kind of tools to use, what kind of stuffing to use, felt. There are some phenomenal professional teddy bear restorers out there. If you do not feel comfortable, or if you don't have basic sewing skills, then there's some great people out there that you can send your piece off to, and they can do the restoration for you. But these are things that I think, knowledge is power. So if you have something and you know how you kind of want it, you can say, I want a certain type of eye, or I'm going to show you some distressing techniques on pearl cotton to take the shine off, to make it blend. When I do repair on my pieces, a lot of them, I do it just for myself, because it's very hard, stressful, long, time-consuming work. If you do not have the time to put into a piece, or if you get frustrated when things don't go quickly, it's probably best to pass it off to somebody who can do that. Because sometimes it can take months to find the right fabric, to find the right eye, to find the right floss, or to repair the bear. When you have an antique bear, if you like the old repair like this, I'm sure that was done many, many, many years ago by a grandmother or mother, keep it. I have so many bears in my collection that have old repairs. And I think they're charming. I think they're part of its history. I think it tells a story, and I leave it. If you're the type of person who wants everything replaced, it's okay. What you want to do with your teddy bear or your toy is okay. No one's going to judge you. No one's going to tell you what to do. But I just want to give you some ideas of what can be done, what to watch out for. And you might not want to use any of this, but at least you'll know the type of tools, needles, thread, eyes to use, or to look for, or to suggest to the repair that you might want done for your piece.
This is so helpful. Okay. Oh, I can't wait to learn.
So we're going to go from getting your tools together to the final thing of how I clean. There's many ways people clean their bears and their antique toys. I took a textile preservation class 30 years ago. These items are, many of them, 100 years old plus. So I treat them like an antique textile, and I don't want to use any harsh chemicals, any kind of tool that could destroy the backing, that could do any more damage. I always say these poor things have lasted 100 years. I would hate it if I'm the one that totally just turned their life around. So that's what this video is about. I'm not going to start and do one from start to finish. We would be here for 4 days, and Eric, who's holding this camera, would probably hate us. So we're just going to give you a quick overview of different things and the things that were in teddy bears. Okay? So
maybe I should move.
All right. You don't have to move too far, Rachel. She put me down on this thing. I'm never getting up.
Yes. It's more ornamental than comfortable.
My dancing days are over. Eric, we leave it to, the wonderful dancers like you. Now I can just barely get out of bed. Okay. So what we're going to do, first of all, I'm going to show you the tools that I have in my stash. Now, when I said I had 100 tubs of antique fabrics, I have drawers and drawers and drawers and drawers and drawers of supplies, eyes, everything. I used to make teddy bears for a living, and my mother did, obviously. So I have a little bit of everything. So don't hesitate to call if you need something. I probably have it. So we're going to tell you what you need. I always say invest in a really, really good pair of scissors. This is a pair of Ginger scissors. This is a Fiskars. I like them both. You need a nice pointy, sharp tip to them. And you need different sizes of scissors, depending on the bear. This is a nice little pair that I've used. A lot of these I've had forever, and I stick with them. Scissors are very important. I also like these little, I guess you call them forceps. These can hold on to stuffing, and then you can put them into the arm of a bear or the leg of a bear, and it helps place the stuffing into the bear. So these come in several different sizes. You can get them from online, medical supply or anything. Different sizes, they're great to have. The other thing that I love is needle nose pliers. If you're putting a new joint in a bear, I use the cotter pin method, and I'll show you what that means in a little bit, but I use this, and they're invaluable. I have them in several different sizes for several different sizes of bears. One thing, don't just stick with one. If you're using different bears, you need different tools. So if you're working on little bears, see how fine these are at the point? Those are really good. They fit in small spaces and work with very, very tiny, tiny joints and these tiny little cotter pins. The other thing that I have is a screwdriver. When you've got a bigger bear and you're trying to put the stuffing down, you slide it against the skin. You be very careful. You don't want to go through the fabric, but a lot of times it helps to get it down into those corners that you need. Also, needles. If you have a big bear that needs eyes put in, you need puppies this big, because they aren't going to make it through the head unless they're that big. Like one of these big 24-inch stiffs, you need a long doll-making needle like that to get it through the base of the skull to the eye and back again. Those are invaluable. They come in several different sizes for several different types of bears, sizes of bears. I have 3 different sizes. And even this size. Also, for sewing, if you're doing fine sewing work, you need some really fine little needles. I would have brought more. I have thousands of them. I even use antique needles from the old packets because some of those really wonderful little needles are perfect for antique bears. So good needles is really, really important. Wire cutters, in case you need to cut off a cotter pin or cut. Some of these eyes come on metal shanks like this. See, like this. Here, I'll show you. Like this, and you need to cut those babies in half. Like that. And then these got bent in travel, but those will go into the bear's head. But you need to cut them in half, so you need a good pair of wire cutters. I use sometimes wax on the thread if I need to. Need some good wax, some little pins to hold things in place. Maybe you need a paw pad put in place. You need a good set of little pins. What else did I pack in here? 'Cause I threw a lot of stuff in. More cotter pins. Cotter pins you can get from the hardware store. Also, Edinburgh Imports. It's online. It's a teddy bear making supply company, and they have eyes, cotter pins, needle felting, felt. So it's a great source if you're looking for felt and different things to repair your bear. Edinburgh Imports. Also, pearl cotton. I use pearl cotton when I repair my bears, and thread that is cotton based. I never use nylon, that nylon filament thread. If your bear's fabric, a lot of these bears, you know, their fabric is weak, it'll cut right through. You don't want that. You need a good cotton covered thread. I have a billion different colors. I actually have 6 huge drawers full of thread and pearl cotton because you never know what you're going to need. You don't know what kind of fabric it is, and you might not know what size it is. So this is Rachel's bear. She's going to have me show her what I think needs to be done and what would be done. So we're going to concentrate on that. The other thing I use is this is out of an 1890s blackboard set. It's an old eraser. And it's great with this 100-year-old chalk because you can distress the pearl cotton. See how this is faded? The new pearl cotton is very bright. See how that would be jarring? this would be jarring. What I like to do when I replace a nose or something, if the piece is worn like this, I like to make the pearl cotton kind of match the age of the fabric. Because you don't want this bright, shiny black nose on a bear that you're never going to replace all its fur or never make it bright and brand new. Because then it kind of blends in with the piece and it really looks a lot better. Then, the other thing that I think everybody needs to have, this. As Billy Harris would say, bye y'all. We don't use a wire brush. No more wire brushes. If you put this wire brush to fluff that bear up, if this catches in that fabric, you're going to tear the fabric or you're going to pull the fabric. Even if the fabric is stout, it's dangerous. It depends on the pressure you use. I mean, no, this is great for modern plush. This is great for artist bears, maybe some 50s pieces or 60s pieces, 70s pieces, limited editions, if their fabric is good. This is what I use. First of all, I use a flea comb. And where did I put it? Here it is. A plastic comb. So when you are going on a bear and you want to fluff up that fabric, this is a way to fluff it up like this without digging into that backing. You do not want to dig into that backing. And this separates the hairs and it really fluffs it up. You can see right over time, all our hair gets mashed to the bone. Well, this really does fluff it up and you're not getting into that backing, which could be very fragile. We still don't know yet. Some bears have dry rot. Dry rot's a fungus. It happens when things get hot, cold, wet, dry. And a lot of early bears, it's really sad, they do have dry rot problems. What dry rot is that when you put a needle in it and you go to sew, that fabric will just tear out. It'll just turn to powder. I have pieces in my collection that they sit on the shelf. I love them, I adore them, and I will enjoy them till, they go their way. Because a lot of times you see a little bit more hair or mohair on the bottom, or there's a little bit less happening because it's no way to stop it. You can kind of back it, you can put some glue on it, you can kind of retard it, but you can never stop it. So you always want to check your piece first to make sure that it is stout. You never want to see something that just tear out. It's the most horrible feeling in the world. So this is my eye area. Like I said, I made bears for a long time. I have billions of eyes, and I'm one of those people that everywhere I go, I look in junk drawers, button boxes, everything. On early bears, they had shoe button eyes. As you can see here, shoe button eyes. Every size. I never turn a shoe button eye down. This one looks old and it's not brown, it's just worn. They were probably child shoes. A lot of early stiffs, their eyes will be worn. I want to get an eye that kind of matches the other one or matches the age of the bear. These eyes are also shoe button, but you can see they're much better condition. Look like they just came out of the factory, and they're a little bit shinier. Those would be on early bears, like he originally had. I don't know that he had shoe buttons, he probably had glass eyes, but a lot of the early stiffs that we saw in Diane's collection had these wonderful shoe button eyes. And you want to always look for different sizes. Like I said, I only have a few. See different sizes, like this is a very small size for probably a nice early 12-inch size. And even if you're working on 21 to 24-inch bears, these are really hard to find. These are the larger, stiff boot button eyes that, were on the early bears. They're very hard to find. So people laugh at me because I dig. I dig through everything and I buy it because I never know when I'm going to need it. And it's always that time when you go to look at it and it's like, oh, I should have got it. Well, I just buy it all. Because you never know when you're going to need it. I even got these. These are plastic. These are probably from bear from the 50s. Those wonderful. These, I just saw them. I put them out. Where did I put them? These. The early American bears, like Knickerbocker, their glass eyes were not so domed as the new pieces. Like these are the newer ones. They're very domed. They were more flat. So I found these probably at a doll sale, and I grabbed those because I never know when I need to replace a pair of eyes in a larger early American bear. Also, some of the Stifes, like Rachel's, would have had a painted back. The American bears had amber glass eyes, like this. See how the glass is amber? It's amber. The glass is actually amber colored. These were actually clear eyes, and they were painted brown on the back, and they were painted in different shades. So this, where most of the Stifes from the 20s on used this. They wouldn't have used the amber glass eyes. So I even have some here. Some early American bears had clear glass eyes. Baker and Bigler, some of them, they weren't painted. They were just clear glass eyes. Also, the wonderful things with these is if you needed to paint a color, you can paint the backs of these with paint and make them the kind that you need for your bear. So what I guess I'm trying to say is don't be embarrassed, just buy it all. And like these are antique. I have a lot of these. Antique rabbit eyes. You know, those 19 and 20s rabbits, those wonderful kind of folk arty rabbits, had these wonderful pink eyes. I love those. Even cat's eyes for the old cats to repair. Let's see, I can't get them out. It's a cat eye. Pearl cotton. The old bears had pearl cotton noses. If it was a Hecla or an American bear like this guy, a lot of them had rust-colored noses. I didn't bring the right color rust to do his nose today, but this even works great for Raggedy Ann here. So it's early wool felt in rust colors. So a lot of the early American bears, Hecla, some of the Strauss bears had these wonderful rust noses out of wool. So it's always great to go to, when you're at the thrift store and you know the yarn bags that they hang up, check through. You'd be amazed what you can find. Next, what you want to do, because when you repair pads, you need felt. I only have a little here. So you can never have enough shades of felt because you never know what you're going to need. So you just keep buying shades of felt, and then you have what will blend in with the piece. A lot of these, Edinburgh imports again, or online, you can see there's a lot of companies that sell wool felt. And this is and no, I did not rip up any bears or any old Stipe dolls. I bought these from another person that was doing repairs that had them, and bears that have probably lost their way, or the customer wanted all the pads replaced. Well, I keep everything. Because you know what? Some bear is going to have a great repair with these antique pieces. Okay. So save everything. If you're really wanting to repair things, save it, look for it. It's really important because you never know when you're going to need it. A lot of professional repair people have these things. So you can send it away, that's okay. But I'm just showing what you should have and what you do need. Okay. Pearl cotton. You can get it at your local Michael's probably, and also online, Edinburgh Imports or another one of those supply companies. Always have lots of different sizes, lots of different colors. When Rachel said she had a bear, I just threw a bunch of thread in. I didn't know what really I would need, so I put a lot in so I would have the right kind of thread. This I love. I got this at an antique store. It has B on it for Beverly, my mother, and it was filled with antique shoe buttons. Stuffing. A lot of the early bears, and I showed you some of Diane's collection, you know, the really early ones were stuffed with kapok, which was a very lightweight fiber. This is kapok. It's like feather. So it makes an item very lightweight. They would have combined it with Excelsior here as a mixture to make the item lightweight. Right after the rod bears, they went to the opposite, which was a very lightweight bear. So anytime there's a bear that needs to be repaired, I keep every single little bit of everything. This is also kapok. It's great to have on hand when you need to restuff a bear that's lost his stuffing. You can stuff it with that. The idea that we have to wear masks now because of COVID is not a bad thing when you're repairing bears. Please, 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 always when you're taking apart an antique bear, please, and touching a lot of these things, wear a mask. These fibers are fine. They can get to your nose, get to your throat, your hands if you're allergic or anything. Always wear, what I do is I either wear white cotton gloves on some of the early pieces, wear a mask, because when you're taking the stuffing out of something, that stuff gets everywhere. It's full of 100-year-old dust and fibers and dirt, and you don't want to get pneumonia. This is needle felting rovings. And a lot of people, the way they repair their pads is they will needle felt in the holes. They put fiber fill on top of the Excelsior, and then they needle felt into that. It's very difficult if you can't get the right color. I'm not that great at needle felting, and it makes me jittery, so I don't do it that way. But it's always good to have it on hand because it's also great for stuffing. So these are part of the supplies that I brought to show you what you might need if you're going to repair a bear. I always say you should have basic sewing skills. Oh, and joints. No longer do I have to cut out joints for a nickel a piece. It is so refreshing. These you can buy at Edinburgh Imports. Also, there's other supply companies online. These are actually the cardboard joints like they used in the antique teddy bears. I'll show you. With little holes in them. And these are cotter pins that you can put through and turn to rejoint your bear. So it's wonderful that I no longer have to sit in the hot blazing sun cutting out circles out of art cardboard to make bears, because now they have them. And they're super. There's several different sizes. You don't know what size you may need for the bear that you're repairing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pick up a bear, and then I'm going to tell you what I think needs to be done. And you talk to if you are repairing for someone else, you always talk to the client. You always say, what do you feel comfortable with? So this is Rachel's bear. And she brought this to show me. This little guy is a Stife. He's from the 1920s. He's incredible. He's like 21 inches tall. I love him. And now she brought him to me. So I would say, okay, what he needs his nose and mouth redone. So we're going to use pearl cotton, and we're going to distress that pearl cotton to fix his nose and mouth. He's missing an eye. To match that eye is nigh on impossible. So what I would probably do is I would take that eye out. I would give it to her in a Ziploc bag. And I have got eyes that are the painted back, almost the exact same size, and I would replace those eyes. His ears have been put on wrong. I think somebody restitched them. So what I would do is I would probably take those off and reposition him on his head so his ears are back where they should be. His paw pads. This I'm in love with. See the old felt here? Somebody has, and I'm sure it's probably a grandmother, and it's beautifully done, has taken chamois and so carefully stitched over that pad almost to the exact same shape as the original. I would ask you know, what do you want me to do with that? Do you want to leave that? If it was my bear, I probably would fix this. I would cut away. I would test this to make sure it's solid enough. I would cut this away. And then I would probably take the arm, unstuff it, turn it inside out. And then I would look for a felt that would match this felt here. And I would replace the pad and then turn it back the other way so it would look professionally done. I love this. I think this is just, there was such detail and love in that for some little boy or girl that they got this back with these wonderful chamois pads. Then after you're done with that, what I would do to him is I would clean him. This is my method of cleaning. Other people use other methods, and that's okay. I'm saying what I do. So first of all, I have this wonderful bucket of water here, hot water. And it has a very non-chemically soap. It has no dyes, no perfumes. And what I would take, after I've got him all repaired, I would take my towel, I dip it in that water, and I squeeze it out so there is no more water left on there. You do not want to get the backing wet on a bear at all. So there's no more liquid. Then I would just simply go over it very carefully. After I have brushed him up, I've raised this up a little bit. Because you don't want to get the backing wet on an antique bear, ever. And then I go like this with my finger. And it takes time. When you're repairing an antique bear or cleaning a bear, see the dirt that's coming off? You want to take your time. If you don't have the time, or if you can't do it all in one day, that's okay. Just do part of it and then leave him and come back. Don't get frustrated. Don't go too fast because you'll end up ruining the piece. But yeah, you can see where it's going to fluff up in the beautiful blonde color. See the dirt that's coming off on there? And take your time and be very gentle because you don't want to go through to the back of the bear. And see down here, see how he's all matted? So you want to take your comb, just very gently go inch by inch. Just minute, because if you pull too hard and these are too matted, you can pull the hair right out of the backing, depending on the strength of the fabric on the back. So you just got to be very, very careful. So after you get that fluffed up, you take a different part of your cloth and you go in there and you repeat this. You keep repeating this. The other thing I use besides the liquid soap, see how the dirt's coming off? I use these are actually Textile Soaps. One I think is Fels Naphtha. Another one is like I forget the name of it. I've had it forever, but it has no chemicals, no dyes, no nothing. It's great for vintage fabrics. And I will take my wet washcloth and I just rub it over the surface of that. And then I'll go over it like that. And you can see the dirt coming off. So after you've got him, cleaned, you want to get any kind of soap residue off. So again, I do this process with water, squeeze it totally out so you can't get another drop out. And I go over the part where I would have put the soap. And then I don't put him in the sun. Never put your bear in the sun. Bright light, temperature changes are not good for Teddy. You just sit him out in the room and he air dries. And he shouldn't be that sopping wet to begin with, so he'll dry rather quickly. So that's how I do cleaning of my pieces. Other people do it a different way, but I'm always extremely careful with the antiques because they are 100, some of them 100 and more years old. So this is a bear from the 1920s, and he was called a duplex whistler. He was made by the French Toy and Novelty Company, and he actually had squeakers in his ears. So many times these ears, you know, they fell off, they came off, the squeakers disintegrated, and you just feel the metal pieces of the squeakers in the ears. So let's say he has a seam that is popped. So here he is, the poor guy is open in the back. He might lose his stuffing, so what do we want to first do? So it helps to have basic sewing skills when you repair a bear. So what you want to do is take your 3.5-inch soft sculpture needle. I've got pearl cotton. I've doubled it. It's the thin number, it's a thin pearl cotton, and I've kind of tried to match it to the fabric. I put the needle up. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to turn them around because I'm one of the odd people. And then I go in this side of the bear like that and come out. This is called a blind stitch or a ladder stitch. And I pull it tight. Then I go in this side and I make the stitch there like a ladder. And then you pull that tight like that and it closes the seam. So you do that all the way down. And don't get all over me if my things aren't perfect. Usually I have bright lights, magnifying glasses. See how that's pulling together? These are just kind of tips of what you can do with your teddy if you have some sewing skills. And then you pull that together and it's pulling it together. This is how you can close up the back seam or the top of an arm or an ear. And you sew it. And you go the other side like a ladder. Oops. Here we go. And then you close it. And then when you pull it tight, you can see you can't even see the thread. It's also called a blind stitch because you can't see the stitch. And if you look at a lot of your old teddies, these were toys. These were mass-produced toys. So a lot of their seams and their closings are quite crude. So a lot of ours that we do to close them up are a lot more precise. So there we go. We're almost to the end. And we're closing them up. Okay. And then we're going to come out here. Here we go. Into the other side. We're going to come out here, and then what I do instead of making knots is I take my thread like this in one hand, I go in the exact same hole with my needle as the thread, and I go up here, and I come out, and then I watch for that same hole, and I go right back into that same hole, and I go across. This strengthens it. Okay, and again, on this side, I do the same thing. So it helps to have magnifiers and bright lights if you're blind like I am. Okay. There. And then I just cut that. Okay. And his back is back together. He now will not leak stuffing out of the back. So his eyes obviously have fallen out. So he's going to have his eyes replaced. So I'm going to show you how we would replace his eyes. So first of all, we have to get rid of these shoe buttons. Chop. Chop. And then what we're going to have to do, somebody has been so loving to stitch those on. So we're going to get rid of that extra cotton thread that they stitched those eyes on. And this is where a nice needle nose plier or a tweezer works to get that extra thread out. They have really overcast that whole thing. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Rather than make you see it all day while I try to get that thread out, I'm going to put the eyes in above it, and then I'll just take them out and redo that later. So we're going to figure out what kind of eyes we wanted. This guy did not originally have shoe button eyes. He actually had glass eyes. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to pick out a size eye that will be good for him. Okay, so here's some nice amber glass eyes. And I'll imagine that he would look cute, or maybe even a smaller size would be better. The way to really get the correct type eye on a bear, get your guides out. There's wonderful antique price guides and identification guides like Collector's History of the Teddy Bear, many by Linda Mullins, that have examples of the bear as they originally were. So you want to really look at those when you were repairing your antique bear, because you want to get it as close to the way it was as possible. So we're just going to say this eye here. I honestly think it could be a little bit bigger and flatter, but for this practice purpose, I'm going to use this now so you can see how to do it. These aren't going to be permanent in him because I still have to get all that thread that somebody has put together. So if you have them on these without a loop, you can put them in there like that and poke them in. Or if you want to sew them in, you cut them off a little bit shorter. Take your needle nose plier and you can bend this wire around like this, and make a loop. Be gentle, you don't want to break the wire, and make a loop. And then you can sew that into the bear. I even make it thinner so you don't have to make a big hole into the teddy bear. See, like that, you can make a loop out of it. Then here's a little hole there. I can feel it. You can poke it in and you'll sew it. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to do this other one here now. Cutting it. Oh, I'm using the wire cutters like an idiot. Okay, and I'm going to make it narrower so you don't make a big hole in the fabric. And then we'll put it in this side. Okay, so we're going to take our needle. I'm going to make a hole here. Okay, put that eye in there. Come on. I can feel you wanting to go in there. The stuffing is resisting it. Okay. And then I'm going to show you how we will sew those in. So we're going to take some pearl cotton here. And we are going to, you know, Rachel, enjoy your age. When you get older, you have to have 15 pairs of glasses, bright lights. But you're so much younger than us. That's what you're good for. See, we're going to just pass you around between Billy and all of us. We're just going to, you're going to find our glasses for us.
You're doing a pretty darn good job.
You're going to find all our glasses for us. You're going to remind us when it's meds time. So we're going to go in from the base here. I'm going to take that eye out. Oh, let me show you there. Okay, and then we want to go up through where that hole was. Okay, like right. Come on. Get in there. May take a few tries to get in the right place. You got to come out with this thread here. And leave a little bit in the back there. Then you loop it through this eye. And then what I do is I go back to the back. Right next to where the thread was that I put it in before. Right? Exactly. Can you see here? Right where I put that pearl cotton the first time. It may take a few tries to get it right. Okay, then this eye comes in. Okay, and then he's got one eye in. Then I go to the other side. exact same hole where the cotton came out. Take this eye out that I have just kind of put in there. Come on. Oh, the other way. There we go. Right here. And then we come up to where the other eye is going to be. Now the fun part is when you're feeling with your thumb where you want it to go, is when the long 3.5-inch needle goes right directly into your finger. Ouch. Like right there. Come on. Come on. There we go. Oh. There. Okay. Comes out. And we're going to see where we did that. What I do is I go right next to the thread right here, make it a little bit bigger, then put the eye on the needle and go right back through that same hole, and then go back to the base and the back. Okay. And then I pull that tight in the back while I put my hands on the eyes, pull them tight so he has eyes. Now these are just practice because they're probably not the right size and they will be taken out later. This is just to show you how to put eyes in. Then I make a knot. And I make another knot. And then what I do, mind you, this, if you want to do it differently, you can. This is just how I do it. I then take my needle, put it back on the thread, and if you're right-handed, I'm so sorry because this is backwards for you. Go. Okay, and then we put this needle back in here. This is what I do here. And I just take it out to the side like that. And that way it hides that, and I don't have to have raw ends on the back here. I can just do this, take my little scissor, cut it off right to the thing. And then I do the same thing on the other side. And then you don't have raw ends sticking out there. The ends are hidden inside the head. And then he has his eyes. So that's how you do bear eyes. But these, like I said, are not the right size. And I need to get all that black off there. That's going to take me some very tiny tweezers to pull that out. But that shows you how he can get new eyes. So eyes, and I've closed up his back. So that gives you an idea about him. This, I'm going to show you what I'm doing with this little guy. His paw pads were missing. So what I did, I opened him up. I emptied out he had kapok. I turned his paw inside out. So what I want to do here is, because I want to save as much of this antique felt as I can on this bear, because I think it's wonderful that there's that much left. If they were all gone, I'd totally replace it. If there was just a little hole, I would tuck some felt underneath and incorporate it in. But the entire, some little child, I have no idea what they were thinking, but the tips of his paws are totally wrong. Done. So what I would do is I would go through my felt and I would try and match that color. Then what I would do is I would pin it on there, see, like this, and make the shape of the paw out of the felt. And then I would take that and I would go and I would stitch all the way around right to the seam of this paw with the felt all the way to the original seams. So then when I turn it back the other way, this is on the outside. The new felt is just covering up the hole in the tip of his paw. So you've kept the old. Then what I do is sometimes you can use spray starch or something like that, make the felt hard, use a little bit of needle, or I know someone that did repair that used a razor blade, and then incorporate it into the new felt. So you have the old felt over the new felt. So the only thing that you've had to that's new is the tips of his paws. And you always have to check the fabric to see if he's strong enough to do inside out. Sometimes you can't. He's got really strong backing. You do have to take the arm off, open the body, take the arm off, and do it that way. But when I get done with him, he'll have the new felt on the backing of the old felt. So when you reverse it, it'll have just the tips with new felt. And if you distress the felt with chalk or just some dust, I'm the king of running around my house and rubbing things on windowsills. And so don't ever dust your house because you can really use it. It's a great useful tool for dust. So that's how I would replace his felt. This guy, what I would do with him, he doesn't have that big of a hole. So I would get some felt out of my stash that matches this, and I would cut a piece that's a little bit bigger, and then I would tuck it underneath, under here. So you would just have one patch of new felt, and then you could carefully either stitch to the new felt, or you could use some starch and stuff and iron it with a small hand, one of those little, they call them pleating irons, I think, and iron it together and it'll stay flat. I love this. I think somebody really did a cute job on his paw pads. And then what I would do, I would clean him. He needs a little cleaning. He could use a little stuffing in his neck, but I just love his character. So when you're repairing a bear, you do what's comfortable for you. If you're having your bear repaired by a professional, tell him what you feel comfortable with. You want him totally redone, or you like the way his head tilts, so if you could just leave that. It's totally up to you. It's your bear. So those are what I would do for these. This little guy, he has his arms and legs, but the poor little man has lost his neck joint. So the sad part is he has had his head sewn on. So we're going to clip that like this. Like this. His head is going to be rejointed. Somebody really, that's what I love about some of these old repairs from the early 1900s, because you know a mother really put a lot of work into it. So you can see where they had stitched to joint his head. His original cotter pin's there, it's come out. I'm not going to do it right now because it needs some technique, but his joint is there, his joint is there. So what he needs, he's going to need some new joints. By feeling of it, they're pretty good size. This size. So that's the size it looks like was in his head. So we're going to take a cotter pin. When I get his head off, I'm going to put one of these in his head like this. And I'm going to show you. The cotter pin will go through like this. And then after I unstuff him, and he's got his disc there, could even use his original disc, but for purposes, we're going to just use another disc, and I'm going to show you how to joint. So this would be in the head, and you would sew the head around this, the base of the head around this. Then this would go into the body. You would put this joint in the body, like this. Take your needle nose pliers and you separate it like this. Oops. Like that. And then what I do is a crown joint. It's a flick of the wrist. You turn it down, and then you take your needle nose and you so carefully pull it in. Same on this. Separate. Do a twist. Like that. So this is in the head. This is in the body. This is what makes the head on the bear turn. These joints can be bought. Again, Edinburgh Imports is a great supplier. You can go online for, they're called teddy bear neck joints or discs. If you have a project at home and you are looking for something, you can contact me. I don't guarantee I'm going to get around to it right away, but I might have something at home that will work for you, because as you can see, I have a lot of everything. But this is how you joint. You also do this in the arms and the legs. And that's how teddy bears were jointed. So that's what I'll do when I get home. I'm going to finish cutting off all the thread on this poor guy. And I can feel where the cotter pin is caught. And I don't want to force it, because I don't want it to tear through the fabric. I'll be very careful, and I'll open up his body on the back, pull all the stuffing out, and I'll carefully take the joint out and the joint out of here, and then he will have a new jointed head, and his head will be perfect. And then I kind of like his little nose. I don't think I'm going to do anything with it, because otherwise, to me, he's charming. I will then take my my comb, my plastic comb, go over him like this, and then I'll do the cleaning method on him. And by the time he's done with a little bow, he'll be fantastic. So Rach, on your bear, who I just love, you need to know what you want to do with him. If you're happy with this, if you want his pad to be redone and his nose to be fixed, and how you want him repaired, and then you go from there. And it's okay. If you like him this way, I don't care what anybody else says. If somebody says, oh, you need to repair that, tell him, you know what? I love him. Go away. Go find somebody else to bother, because it's yours. And if you love him, that's great. A lot of bears that have lost a lot of their stuffing, you kind of have to be careful, because if they're not fluffed up a little bit, the creases of the mohair can become weak. So you might want them stuffed up a little bit just to get rid of those folds in the mohair that can become very severe and a problem. Also, a bear should be cleaned if it's got any kind of soot or anything on it, because a lot of times bears, if the dirt stays on too long, it can make it worse. Cleaning, I never use woolite. I have seen disasters with woolite. I've seen white bears turn green. If there's nicotine on the bear and you don't really see it, the woolite can make it turn green. And also over time, if it's not rinsed off, it makes sticky and can collect dust. Before you clean your bear, vacuum it on low setting with the nylon over it. Get all the dust off. Because the last thing you want to do when you wash your bear is to wash more dirt into it. So that's very important. People ask, how do you keep bugs away from your bears? First of all, I never, ever, 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 ever freeze a bear. I know people do. They put them in plastic and they shove them in the freezer. I always worry if the fabric has any dry rot in it or a tendency for dry rot. When you freeze something, it freezes, it thaws. The fibers expand and contract, and it can make it worse. Besides, carpet beetles, as I was told by a pesticides expert, is that the only really way to get rid of carpet beetles is either chemicals or extreme heat. Freezing, they can go into stasis and still survive. Moths, you just kind of check them. Sometimes you can put them in a plastic bag with herbs and not in the heat, so that just so you can see if anything collects on the bottom. What I do with my bears in my house, because I live in the woods, there's bugs, I go over them. When I get a new bear, I take my comb or my flea comb and I carefully go and check for any bug casings, anything that might look suspicious, and I vacuum and I'm very careful. I don't spray my bears with chemicals, and I don't use mothballs. It is toxic. It is poison. I have seen collections that people want me to buy. I have refused them because it's poison. You can't get the smell out. It reeks. No matter what you do, smell of mothballs, it ain't coming out. So do not use chemicals and do not spray pesticides directly on your bear because you don't know what that will do to the fine fabric. So, Rachel, do you have any questions that you can think of as a person who doesn't repair bears? What you think needs to be addressed?
John, and you don't need to. Here, I'll just come back in.
Okay, come back, Rach, down here on the floor with me.
Once you get down,
because you're going to be helping me out.
We need to take some photos in the bear den anyway.
Yep.
But this was so interesting. I was glued to the camera. I've never known how to do any of this. So I'm definitely going to watch it again and again.
Guess what you're going to be doing when you come to my house?
Making these discs for 5 cents a piece.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
Pretty fair offer. Well, wait till you see my discs. I might not even get to that. But I hope that you enjoyed this out there. John, this was just wonderful. I didn't know how the eyes were sewn in. That was so interesting. Yeah. That you go in from the back with the long needle.
And don't be saying that isn't the right size and you didn't take off that will be done when I get home. That was just to show you how to put eyes in.
Yeah, he was just showing technique.
Yeah.
It's not the final
this
version.
Wasn't like a full repair thing because poor Eric would age gracefully on the other side of that camera. These were just tips and techniques. Again,
beginners.
If you have questions, you can always email me or email Rachel. She can forward it. But I just want you to know that you can get your bear repaired by a professional. You can contact me privately. I do know a couple that I really love. There are some people out there you have to be careful of. Always. Get references. When you go online, get reviews. Word of mouth is really good as far as bear repair. Mm-hmm. Always ask people that have large collections, do you get your bears repaired and who do you get your bears repaired and are you happy? Mm-hmm. And remember, chemicals are not our friends when it comes to teddy bears. Bright sunlight and temperature changes. And keep water away from Teddy. He really does not like it. And I look forward to seeing Rachel's bear when he's
I can't wait.
Back up and running.
He's going to be up and running soon. We hope you enjoyed this. Watch it again. You'll see something different every time. So thank you so much, John.
Thank you. And I hope you learned something. And again, have questions, just contact me. I love to help people.
So helpful. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.